Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our next session, where we are going to take a look at the University of Cincinnati's path towards socially just education. I'd like to turn it over to Kathleen Bryan and as we introduce our panelists.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for attending this session. I am going to let each of the panelists introduce themselves and we will get into the presentation. And just so you know, I will be monitoring the chat and making sure that any questions that come up will be addressed. Danielle?
Okay, all right, thank you. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Danielle Bond. Can you see, let's see, let's have to do this. Can you click up on the slide that has our bios on, or you want me to just go ahead and introduce myself?
Yes, give me a minute.
Okay, sure.
Judith, can I have sharing capabilities?
Yes, you should be able to access that now, Kathleen.
Thank you.
All right, okay, all right. Can I just say that I saw a name of someone that I used to work with, and I am just Charvella. So anyway, send me something in the chat. That is so exciting for me to see your name. Okay, I will start. I am an associate professor of field service here at the University of Cincinnati. And you'll see on the screen, I've been here for about 21 years or so. I'm going into my 21st year, which is hard to believe, but I am. And you'll see on the screen that it says, oh, and Kim Tice. Sorry, I shouldn't do that. That's unprofessional, but I see some things in the chat. I love seeing people I know. These are people that I used to work with. But you'll see on the screen that it says social justice begins with me. And the reason why that is on the screen is because as an educator of pre-service teachers, I really feel like it is my responsibility to send teachers out into the world who will interact with an untold number of children who will grow up to be a number of things in different careers. And I have the opportunity to educate those teachers to be able to impact the world. And those children will go out into the world and they will be respectful of equity, and they will see all humans as being equal. And so that is why I say that social justice begins with me. So that's my little spiel. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Josie Evans Phillips, and I'm the Assistant Dean for Inclusive Excellence and Community Partnerships. And I'm honored to be here with my colleagues. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am an intersection of various identities. And as Danielle said, you'll see social justice begins with me on my slide, because I too believe in education, and education that involves us being aware of each other as human beings, us honoring each other's culture, us honoring each other as individuals and what we bring to the table, and how we educate each other as a community on all of the pieces of ourselves that we bring not only to our jobs, but also most importantly to the classrooms. So thank you, and I look forward to engaging with you all again in this conversation.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Yvette Penton. I am an assistant professor in the special education program, and I am honored to be presenting with my two colleagues here today. As on my slide, it says social justice begins with me, and it's through my words and actions as an equitable practitioner, not only at the university, but all the communities in which I live and work. Thank you. So I'm going to review our order of presentation. In this presentation, we will discuss diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice components that are being implemented at the University of Cincinnati at the university level, the college level, our School of Education, and our program levels.
Josie, before you start, can I just say something? We jumped right into the introductions, but I wanted for you all, the participants, to take note of the fact that the title of our presentation says that it is the path that the School of Education at UC is taking. I wanted you all to note that this is our path. And so more than seeing this as something prescriptive, we want you to see this as a conversation, sort of just to glean ideas from, because your program will take its own path and you'll have your own goals and your own challenges. And so I just wanted to put that out there. Go ahead, Jess.
Thank you, Danielle. I love that because we jumped right in and wanted to get started. And I have to tell you all something funny. When I saw my slide up, I think I'm wearing the exact same outfit that I have on in my picture. So I just noticed that when we were looking, but we want this to be a conversation and we want this to be engaging. And we also want this, we're kind of like letting you in to see what we have done. So it's kind of like a behind the scenes of what has happened on our pathway. So Danielle, thank you so much for saying that. So I am going to start off, and again, I mentioned to you all that I'm an assistant dean for the college. So I am in that space. And so I want to share a little bit of kind of behind the scenes and the pathway of some of the work that is happening at UC. So specifically, I want to share with you to start the infrastructure, the current infrastructure that we have. So of course, if you think about it in kind of context, if we start at the largest level context, is the University of Cincinnati. And at UC's level, we do have a vice president of inclusive excellence and community impact. She also serves as our chief diversity officer for the university. The next context would be the college. And so I am at that college level at the dean's office with the Office of Inclusive Excellence and Community Partnerships. So I also roll up to the university level as a liaison. So I serve as the liaison for our college to the vice president of Inclusive Excellence. And then within our college, which is CECH, we're made up of 4 schools. And so we're going to mostly talk today about our School of Education, but we also have School of Criminal Justice, School of Human Services, and School of Information Technology. So we are a very unique and just by nature of design, diverse college. And each college then at the next level is made up of a variety of programs. And again, Yvette and Danielle are going to talk more specifically about the programs they're involved in. So these next couple of slides I'm going to show you all is an example of the infrastructure that you see on this slide. So on the next slide at the university level, UC has for many times, we just captured this one image for you, received a Diversity Champion Award. And Insight into Diversity is a national organization that captures information from different colleges, universities, and organizations. And once you submit your information, then you are able to become a diversity champion and can then use this label as saying that, yes, your organization is endorsed as a diversity champion. So again, at that top university infrastructure level, we do have that endorsement from Insight into Diversity. On the next slide is an image that is representative of my office. So the Office of Inclusive Excellence and Community Partnerships. This is just a picture that we took from our website where we do have presence on our college page that we are really focusing on inclusion and making sure, and I know on the education side, inclusion means something different than on the diversity side, but we are striving for inclusive excellence is what that image is representative of. And then the next slide will show an image. Actually, that is a picture of our building, part of our building. And our college, again, consists of those 4 schools. And so you can imagine within those 4 schools of education, criminal justice, human services, and information technology, we have a very unique opportunity. And that all 4 of those has some kind of historical inferences when it comes to equity, inequity, and racism. And so as we think about how that was already built into systems, how do we then undo those systems to make sure that our students do have access to all of those things, regardless of their station in life? And then the next slide is an example at the program level. That's just a picture of commencement. And again, we have many undergraduate and graduate programs in our college. But our ultimate goal, of course, is to make sure that our students graduate and then move on to the success that each of them deserves, regardless of if they're first generation or have not had exposure to previous educational opportunities. So access is also important to us as well. So the next slide is the one that I'm really going to kind of dig into, which is my area, and that is the college level. So I'm just going to share a little bit more with you about myself and the work that I lead in the college with my colleagues. So as an assistant dean, our office includes 2 other associate deans, the dean, the business manager, as well as our alumni and foundation. So that is the makeup of our leadership team. I have been the assistant dean in November. It will be 2 years. I've been in CECH for 8 years. So I'm recently in that assistant dean position. Prior to that, I worked through as a director and as a program manager for many of the recruitment and retention efforts at the college. And so as I have moved through my role into the current role I have now, I have had the opportunity to learn some of the spaces and places and gaps and opportunities that we had in order to really, if you will, put a stake in the ground as it relates to diversity, equity, inclusion, racial, social justice, whichever word you so choose or that makes you comfortable. I'm here for all the letters and any other letters that might emerge, because as we continue in life, we learn new things always, and that's what makes us great educators. The first thing that I did when I came to CECH, because I was one person and I was tasked with something that really had not been called out in our college prior to, and again, as you see, we were made up of 4 schools, so I knew I was going to need help. And so being able to create a diversity, equity, and inclusion board, which consisted of representation from each of the 4 schools at the faculty, staff, student, and alumni level. So our diversity board has actually been in existence for almost 8 years. And we recently won a very prestigious award on our campus, which is the Marion Spencer Diversity Ambassador Award as an organization. So it's something that we're very proud of. And the work that we have been able to do from start until now is amazing. We have things that we advise the dean in regards to policy or programming. But then we're also a working board. We have our signature event, which is a huge all-college event where we feature our students' work as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is such that it is all across campus. People come to attend our event. And we've also had the opportunity to include students, high school students in our work, students from Taft, Aiken, and Hughes high schools, and also some other community organizations like Word Up and Word Play. Next, we also partner with each school. So I'm working now with our school directors from each of the 4 schools, the faculty from those schools, staff from those schools, and students. And we have various initiatives that we're working on from a policy perspective. I want to share with you that we are working on just looking at our hiring practices. You know, what can we do better? What ways can we affect change? Because we know that in order to recruit and retain BIPOC or underrepresented students, we also have to have that reflection in the classroom by our faculty members and other students. And so that is something that we're looking into now very closely, and making best practice recommendations for people to actually enact. We have recently been in close partnerships. We are one of the very few colleges on UC's campus that has our own library. And of course, that is due to our School of Education. So our library has now partnered with us on just 2 initiatives. I'll tell you very quickly. One is an anti-racism community space, where we come together as a college community, and we have a faculty member that shares their research as it relates to race. And then we have a breakout discussion about that topic that was shared. And so our library serves as a neutral party to hosting that space. And then we also have a common read. So we have adopted, Dr. Maureen Walker has a book called When Getting Along Is Not Enough. And so our library is also supporting that work, and we are doing a common read across our college so that, again, we might learn and grow together as it relates to inequities and social injustices. Next, at the university and community at large level, I've already kind of mentioned our partnership with Cincinnati Public Schools as well as other schools, but CPS, we have the privilege to being right across the street from Hughes High School. So we are able to work with them and have the opportunity to invite their students in so that we can also learn from them and learn ways that we can better engage and prepare and just open up opportunities for them that they maybe had not thought of before. I also have 2 examples to share with you. So if we could go to the next slide. This next slide is just an image from a presentation that I did over the summer with one of our centers. So out of CECH, we have various centers that are able to operate to support not only the work of the faculty, but also to engage the community. That is one of our heartbeats, is about working within the community. And so this is a slide just to give you an example of a presentation I did out of our School of Criminal Justice, because we're going to talk more today mostly about School of Ed. But I wanted to share with you, it was our UC Corrections Institute. And as I mentioned before, we have a lot of social justice concepts in our college because of education and criminal justice specifically. And so this was just a picture just to show you kind of what work I do when it comes to trying to educate not only within our college, but also externally. And when we have these sessions, it's about, you know, education. I don't always like to call it training, but I like to call it education to really engage people in ways that they maybe haven't had the opportunity to even have these conversations before. So this was just one example of a slide I wanted to share with you. The next slide is another example of an initiative. And some of these initiatives had already been going on, but then some of them were accelerated, if you will, or amplified due to what I would call dual pandemics. Yes, we had COVID in March, But then we also had the summer with George Floyd and the other injustices that were happening and were more on display. So while we were at home and everybody was looking in the same direction, and that happened, I believe it caused a second wave of even another pandemic. So this was one initiative that was happening already. But once the images and experiences of the summer happened, there was even more attention and time and effort given to this initiative. So this is an initiative out of our DEI board, and it's led by your very own Danielle Bond, who just introduced herself. But this is an initiative that she and some other students are working on. And if we can click on it, I hope that it takes you to the flyer.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Josie. I needed to download it because it's more of a presentation than a flyer. So I need to switch gears and share a different screen. So
Okay.
I'm going to do that. And if we could just take a pause and see if there's any questions while I'm switching slides.
Thank you so much. And my apologies to make it a little more difficult. I definitely didn't want to do that for you all. And if we can't do it, it's no problem. I would rather us move into the next part. Oh, good. Thank you so much, Kathleen.
You're
So,
welcome.
and you can just scroll through this very quickly. I just wanted you all to see just some of the beautiful images. That is our diversity board's logo. But this one specifically was about women's history. And so there's a focus that happened each month that talked about different women and their stories and just the importance of really, again, taking time, space, and opportunity to talk about different women and the work that they have done on a national level, on a local level, on a community level. And again, it was just a great way to honor that space. And also it was a time for education and resourcing. And so when this went out to our entire college, it was amazing and how much feedback we got from people and different things that they learned that they didn't know before. It's also a great resource to use in the classroom to share with students, because in some spaces, none of us has maybe learned some of the background history that we should have or would have if there was more of a social justice lens within our classrooms. So I just wanted to share some of those examples with you all. And again, thank you all so much for this opportunity. And later we'll have an opportunity to talk more. And if anybody has any questions specifically for me, we'll give you all that time and space later. But I will turn it over next. And again, thank you, Kathleen. You can close out of that now. Thank you so much. But I'll let Kathleen have the opportunity to switch over and we'll move next. And I will turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Pennington. And thank you all again.
So the next slide should be a graphic of Teachers College, which again is where the majority of the School of Education is housed. They're also housed over in another building, and is it Edwards? Yeah, okay. So just to give you a little history about University of Cincinnati and its impact on teacher preparation. So for the past 115 years, the university has been preparing future teachers in the area of elementary education, middle childhood, secondary education, special education, and we also have an ASL and deaf studies program.
Danielle, you're muted.
The joy of technology. Thank you, Kathleen. All right. So on this screen, you'll see the words diversity working group. And the work that's come out of this group from the School of Education is really important, and we're really proud of this work. So let me give you a little bit of a backstory on what the diversity working group is. So if you could click on that. So the way that I'll describe this is just sort of telling you what, when, that kind of thing. So what is it? What is the diversity working group? It's really just this collective of individual faculty and staff across the School of Education that work together really on diversity initiatives. And when did we start? So we started actually the August 2019. That date is the sort of the official date when we got our name, calling it the Diversity Working Group. I was not necessarily a part of the group at that time, but there were a lot of conversations happening earlier in 2019. So why is this work being done? So this work is being done really, or came out of three sort of challenging things that the School of Education was trying to fix or work on. And those were increasing diversity, reducing barriers to getting into the university as students, because sometimes that is an issue of certain students getting in, and really supporting inclusivity. So how do we do this work, and how does the work, you'll see what has come out of this diversity working group and the direction that we're moving in. That happened through all of these continuous dialogues that were happening between community members, students, faculty, and staff. And that took that whole year really to just discuss these issues. Again, I was not a part of the group at that time, but as Josie mentioned, the summer that of the injustice with George Floyd happened, our school director, Dr. Mary Boat, who is the driver of this group, she sent out an email and we talked about, what are we going to do? We need to do something. And so at that point, I wanted to get involved and to really make more of an impact. So I joined the group, and we came up with sort of this unifying framework that is now leading the School of Education's work in the diversity, equity, and inclusion and justice. So if we could move on to the next screen, this work, and actually you're probably going to have to switch screens again, Kathleen, because this is what I wanted to show you, the work that's come out of the group that I was the chair of this particular committee, the Framework and Outcomes Committee. So this is the framework that we have. So I'll let you pull that one up, if you can pull that up.
Oh, Danielle, I'm sorry, I don't have that handy. I will pull it up. Just go ahead and start talking about it, and I will share that.
Okay. So once Kathleen gets that up on the screen, what you're going to see is, and I won't read that to you. Nobody wants to be read to, but it is the work that we worked on this for a long time. It took us coming up with what is our unifying vision? What do we want to do? And so we came up with what you're going to see as a logo, and then the flow of our framework, and then there it is. So this is our logo. So if you scroll down just a little bit. Okay, go back up just a little bit. Okay, so the first, go back up to the first screen. Sorry. Yeah, so that one, that's our logo. So you'll see in the middle, you'll see diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. So we came up with, most of the time you just hear the words diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we were talking about, well, why are we doing this work? What is this leading towards? And we decided it's leading towards social justice. That's what the work is about. And so our framework is built around diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice. Now, you don't see the word social justice. We talk about it a little bit later, you'll see it. But aesthetically, we left out the word social just because you'll see DEISJ was just a little bit too much. And we said that the justice part would sort of be assumed. Okay, so you can move on to the next. Okay, so this is really a flow chart, sort of an infographic of that content that you saw on the logo. So the picture at the top, that is actually where the School of Education is. It's housed in that particular building, so that's what it looks like. Under that, you'll see where I said the DEIJ framework. So that is what it's called. It's called our DEIJ framework. Each of those little red squares or rectangles, those lead into one another. So our call of action informs our mission informs our vision informs our commitments, and our commitments are done by the work of 4 groups that you see at the bottom. We have a curriculum and pedagogy group, we have a research and scholarship group, we have a policy and professional development group, which you'll hear from a little bit later, and we have a recruitment, retention, and graduation group. So all of those groups are doing the work of this framework that we developed. So you can scroll to the next screen. So this is our call to action. And so like I said, I won't read that to you, but this is where we started. We said, what is it that calls us to do this work? How do we start this? So that's the call to action. Then that led us to our mission. What is the school's mission? Where are we going with this? That led into our vision for our school, and then those led into commitments. And commitments are those bullet points that you're going to see. You can scroll on to so that is, what are we committed to doing? What do we say? What is this work going to look like? So each of those bullet points, that's the work that those 4 groups at the top, and if you scroll down, you'll see those at the bottom. That's what those groups are doing, those commitments. So it took us a long time to really process and coming together to figure out what direction we were going in. So yeah, and we just did this work. So we just did this work during the pandemic. It was a lot of time that went into this. So yeah, and then a little bit later, Dr. Pennington will talk about the work of one of those groups. So I was the chair of the Framework and Outcomes Committee, and Dr. Pennington is the chair of, she's one of the co-chairs of the Policy and Professional Development Committee. So I'll let her talk to you about that now.
So one of the things that Danielle spoke about was supporting inclusivity. But from the work that she led through creating the frameworks, it was presented to our School of Education faculty to actually vote on implementing that. And it was, we received a lot of support, a lot of encouragement, and our faculty members, we actually voted and have agreed to implement this framework, which is a work in progress at times, because we have to adjust with the situations that we face at that time. But one of the groups that I co-chair with my colleague, Dr. Miriam Rader-Roth, is the Policy and Professional Development Committee. And from that committee, we were tasked with providing professional development opportunities to our diversity working group initially, and then at some point to the faculty and staff of the School of Education, but also deciding what area did we want to focus on. So one of the areas that we focus on is our syllabi. It is the foundation for every course that we teach. So we employ a consulting firm, Arnold's Consulting Firm, and they actually are a team of diversity and equity, justice and higher education consultants for 30 years of dedicated work to ensure equitable and just outcomes for the most marginalized and disenfranchised individuals. So the services that they provided to us was they conducted an initial workshop, which was titled, oh, well, let me talk about the syllabus review. We did a workshop which was titled From Equity Talk to Equity Work, First Things First. And in that workshop, they provided us with feedback and the components of what is an equitable practitioner. What does it look like? How do we implement those strategies, those skill sets in our classrooms? And from our discussion, we identified 6 areas within the syllabus that we wanted them to provide us with feedback on when we're examining equitable minding syllabus. So those areas included welcoming students and creating a classroom culture in which they feel cared for, demystifying college policies and practices, creating a partnership in which faculty and students work together to ensure success, validating students' abilities to be successful, representing a range of racial, ethnic experiences and backgrounds in assignments, readings, and other materials, and deconstructing and encountering the presentation of white privilege as the norm. So from the syllabus review, our next task is to conduct working sessions, which we're actually going to be conducting those in the next few weeks, where we will be looking at policies within our syllabi that we need to revise. And one of the areas that we're looking at is welcoming and unwelcoming syllabus language. And just by changing a few words within our syllabus, it changes the way that a student feels included in our classroom. So we're looking at our policies regarding grading and participation, and then creating common language among a cohort of 10 faculty members that submitted their syllabi for review from this consulting firm.
Okay. Another thing that we wanted to share with you was on the program level. I just kind of want to give you a little bit of a background. On the program level, we have 2 different programs. We have an ECE online program, which has a birth to age 5 bachelor's degree. It also offers an associate to pre-K license, and that's kind of the stopping point for the bachelor's degree. And it's also asynchronous. And we're very proud of this program. I've worked in this program since it began, and it does a lot of good work. So that's one side of our ECE program. Then we have the on-campus program. And in that program, you'll see that they have a pre-K to 5th grade licensure program. There's also a human development and community engagement degree. And that program is synchronous, meaning students come to campus to get their degree. So the programs don't typically interact per se. The students don't cross over, except for a few classes at the beginning that the on-campus students take in the online program. But I wanted to explain the difference between those, because in the next slide, you'll see one of the things that's really leading us to change our programming in the on-campus program is a course called ECE 3030, which is called Social Issues in Early Childhood Education. And it's an online course, and it's in the bachelor's degree program. Now that course has always been offered to students getting an online bachelor's degree. However, our students in the on-campus pre-K to 5th grade licensure program never had access to that, and were not taking, well, access is not the word, but they were never given that type of course. So when we had the pandemic of COVID-19, our students, and I'm sure that many of you can identify with this, were not able to participate in their preschool practicum experiences. And that was really tough to really try to figure out, what are we going to do with that time? And so as an advocate, and remember in that first screen I showed you, it says social justice begins with me. And so as an advocate of that, I really, really pushed for our students filling that vacant spot of not getting their practicum experiences by taking this online course. And I didn't say this in the beginning because we sort of jumped into it, but Kathleen Bryant is the program coordinator for that online program. And so Kathleen graciously worked with the program coordinator of the on-campus program and found a way for our students to take this online course. And as you can see from the description of that course, it really educates teachers around the areas of race and religion and ethnicity and culture. No matter what children's individual backgrounds, teachers should be able to teach those students. And so this class has led us to now offer a class like this in our own on-campus program. And that is huge. I'm telling you, it's huge because students don't get this type of content in the on-campus program, except where it's infused into individual courses. But I'm so excited to be able to make that happen for us. Okay, so the next screen at the program level, another thing that we are doing is that we are reimagining college access. And the reason why that title is there is because there were so many students trying to get into the pre-K to 5th grade licensure program, but they just couldn't make it in because there were, remember I told you about those barriers to access. So either their GPA wasn't high enough or they didn't make the cut with the ACT scores. So what we've done is in the on-campus program, develop this holistic admission and progression plan. So students, their first 2 years, their freshman and sophomore year, they take courses, but then they apply to the pre-K to 5th grade licensure program in their sophomore year. When they don't get in, if something happens, they don't get in, they don't meet all the requirements, then they can go through this holistic admission and progression plan. It's an appeals process. And so we review their application, they have to submit a resume, they have to write a letter of why why they should be in. We go through a review panel. And then once they're in, then we offer them ongoing support in whatever area they need. So again, having those two things at the program level, the social issues course and this new holistic admission plan is really something that we're really proud of in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. And this really is that path that's leading us to social justice education, a socially just education, I should say. Okay, we'll move on to the next screen.
So looking at the program level and also at the courses in which we teach, we use the Common Read as a guide to create learning communities among School of Education faculty members and our doctoral students to discuss and create anti-racism lessons. And during 2 of our breakout sessions, Danielle and myself will be presenting those lessons in which we were able to present to our learning communities. We received feedback from our colleagues on how to adjust those lessons to make them beneficial for our students. So, so now we can go into our, talk about our breakout rooms. So I will be leading a breakout room titled Looking Through Me Instead of Looking at Me. Danielle will be leading a breakout room titled Imaginary Engagement. And Dr. Evans Phillips will be leading the group, and I apologize. Half of it is, there it is. Starting a DEI board community, our community of equitable engagement. So I will turn it over to our facilitator, who will be giving you logistics regarding our breakout rooms.
Thank you so much. In just a minute, I will be creating the breakout rooms. There will be 3 of them. You will be automatically assigned to a room, and you will be receiving prompts as far as when it's going to end. So just give me a minute and the screen will go blank and you'll be invited to a room. Welcome back. I hope you had an excellent time in your breakout room. Josie, are you ready to take over?
I am. Thank you so much. If we can just go to the next screen, thank you. So I hope, and I reiterate, we hope you had a good time in your breakout sessions. We have enjoyed our time with you all today, and thank you again for coming to our session. Just wanted to see, and there were some questions, and I'm sure each of the breakout rooms, but someone might have had another question that did not get answered. So we want to give you that time and opportunity now. So if you would like to ask, unmute if you are comfortable with unmuting and asking a question, that would be great. I'm just reading something in the post. Oh, yes, sorry, in the chat. So yes, does anyone have a question that would be good for us in this time, please?
I'll ask a question just a bit broadly. What can you say about faculty buy-in? How do you share this with adjunct faculty? And I'll just leave it at that.
That's a great question. I will ask if Danielle or Yvette would like to answer that, or both.
Sure. As Yvette had mentioned in the very beginning, that like with our framework, we voted on it. We sent it to a vote. Are we going to adopt this as a school? So faculty buy-in for us has been great. I think as long as you allow for them to have a voice, because we changed a few things about our framework based on those conversations. We held meetings, we held sessions, we sent out a survey for that framework. And also being a part of, I mean, Josie does a ton of other things, but being a part of the diversity board, the CCH Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Board, we are constantly sending out invitations for participation and changes that we can make. So, but I feel like that our buy-in has been good.
Could we just pause for just a minute? I think we have a whole room of people. Yvette, I think it's your room, and no one came back. Not sure.
No,
So-
some of them did.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got a message.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, thanks. I did message Yvette privately. So thank you for that last question. First of all, let me go back to that. Thank you for that last question about faculty buy-in and adjuncts. I think that is so pertinent. And Danielle is right. It's really getting everybody engaged and everybody moving together. And then also having another group that is driving some of this work and this strategy and supporting it. And that's something that I said to in my breakout room is, who is the person, entity, group, whatever, that is driving this work? Because somebody has to be driving it. Somebody has to be strategizing it. There has to be a machine moving it along. And if you all don't have that, that is something that needs to be advocated for in your spaces. It looks like Yvette's room, maybe they ran out of time. And so they wanted to see what the last slide was, or what the outcome was. So Yvette, if you wouldn't mind, are you prepared to share that during this time real quick?
That's fine. It's just going to stop Kathleen from sharing her screen, if that's okay.
Got it. Can you just talk through it, or is it a screen that needs to be shown?
It was a picture.
Okay.
So basically, my presentation or my breakout room was a situation that my daughter had at her school, in which we shared. So I'll, let me see, where is it at? Here it is.
Yeah, feel free to share.
Okay, thanks. Wait a minute. Do you see my whole screen?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see an image coming up. It says you are sharing your screen, but I don't see anything.
Okay. I clicked on it twice. So the last slide was a picture from, and I don't know why it's not letting me, because I can't see what you all see.
It's just a blank, it's blank, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll talk through it. So the last slide for the individuals in my group was the actual picture that small picture on the first slide was taken from. And so the larger picture was taken from was the signing of the Voter Rights Act in 1965. And whoever is responsible for choosing pictures for the textbook went and found this picture and cropped out that person. So for the individuals in my group, I can send the picture via email to Judith. And Judith, if you don't mind just sending it to them so they can see what the last slide was, please.
No problem at all.
Okay, I can do that. But the outcome of the story was the teacher contacted me and told me what happened with my daughter. And I basically, and then basically asked me to educate her on African-American women.
So that's amazing. I just am, yeah, there's so much I want to say about that, but thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my contact information will be in the next slide. As I said to my group, if you all want to reach out to me individually via email, I'll be happy to set up a time where we can meet via Zoom and talk about it more in detail.
So you're getting a lot of comments, Yvette, in the chat. So it sounds like that was an impactful story. I want to be respectful of time, and it's Friday, and I know we're standing between y'all and the weekend. But if there aren't any other questions, I know I just want to say for myself, and then I'll mute myself and let my colleagues speak, that I learned so much through this process. And again, want to thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. Kathleen, thank you for encouraging Danielle to do this, and also for guiding us through the slides. And I will also share a document that I promised to share my group. I'll send that out. So thank you all so much. And I'll turn it over to Danielle and Yvette to close out.
Just to reiterate what Josie said, I appreciate, we really do appreciate so much that you all, took the time to stay and listen to our presentation. We're really proud of the work that we've done here, and it is by no means finished work. It's continuing. And so if you have suggestions for us or thoughts for us, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you so much for attending. Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Sharella.
I agree with everything Josie and Danielle said. Thank you all for having us.
I'm not sure if I can stay on a sec. I will try. I'm reading from the chat. Thank you, everyone.
And again, I just want to compliment you on an excellent presentation today, and just thank you for all the time and effort that has gone into this presentation. And I know many other people that were unable to be here during this time because they're teaching will be watching this in the future. So thank you again, and we will stay on as long as people are willing to stay on. Judith, anything else?
Yes, I just have just a couple final thoughts, but I just wanted to thank our panel. We so appreciate you being able to join us and share your journey through this process so far. And I'm sure that the group will be quite interested in progress. So maybe doing, a touch point in the future might be warranted as well.
Absolutely.
Kathleen, I'm going to request that back just a moment to do a final slide for today. Awesome. So everyone, thank you so much for participating in Ohio's Early Childhood Higher Education Summit. We're so glad you were able to share in the event and participate, and the engagement was fantastic. So we hope that you were able to take some valuable nuggets back with you to your programs and to further your work as well. We want to thank our presenters. We have such a depth here in Ohio, which is fantastic to showcase that. We had our national speakers that were able to provide that context as well. So just so happy that all of this was being able to share this with all of our participants. Our partner sponsor, the Ohio Head Start Collaboration Office, is important and valued as far as being able to share this with participants free of charge. And of course, our planning committee couldn't have done this event without their support in developing, refining sessions, getting things recorded, providing the facilitation skills. So appreciate their efforts. And finally, you'll receive a couple communications from us. One will be this afternoon, and it will be your summit evaluation. We encourage you to complete that while it's still fresh, providing information back to us about the sessions we presented, as well as looking at what types of items might be helpful moving forward. And then a final email will be provided the end of next week that will share that our session recordings and materials are available, as well as our on-demand session as well. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day and weekend.